Hello, and thanks for joining us for It's Okay Not to Be Okay. I'm Margie O'Brien. As of right now, we are changing the conversation about mental health and substance use in Rhode Island. The stigma around it can be paralyzing, but there is help available. You don't have to go it alone. We'll share 4 stories of heartbreak and inspiration, and you'll also learn the first step to finding help is a phone call away. It is our hope that after tonight you'll know it's okay not to be okay. It's a startling statistic, a measure of a mental health crisis impacting police officers and firefighters across the country. First responders are now more likely to die from suicide than in the line of duty, a problem nationwide and here at home. NBC 10 investigative reporter Katie Davis has been tracking these cases and what's being done to turn things around.
Sebastian, you gonna hit the ball again?
Mom of 3, Ashley Wall, is doing something she never imagined.
All right, hit it back.
Raising her 2 young sons and newborn daughter without a partner.
I've officially come to hate the phrase that things happen for a reason. You know, somebody who says that has not had something truly horrific happen to them.
Her husband, Jeremy Wall, died by suicide in February while Ashley was pregnant with their daughter.
Going through the delivery without him and bringing her home without him and going to my first pediatrician appointment without him because he was a very involved dad and he was always there for all of that. So I'm thankful for her. She's, you know, my last piece of him that he has left me with. And I am forever grateful for that.
Jeremy's firefighting gear hangs proudly above the family's front door. He was a 13-year veteran of the Cranston Fire Department. His picture hangs in the Oaklawn Avenue firehouse, his cubby left empty as a sign of respect. Ashley learned her husband is part of an alarming trend, one of 6 Rhode Island firefighters and 1 police officer to die by suicide this year.
It's heartbreaking. You wonder why. I know for the years that I've been with Jeremy, I have not seen this many suicides within the first responding community within Rhode Island.
A report from the Rutterman Family Foundation found first responders nationwide are now more likely to die by suicide than on the job.
So it's in all of our best interest to make sure that we do a better job of caring for our first responders.
The report's author, Marian Heyman, says mental health should be treated like what it is, an issue of officer safety.
The police officers and the firefighters need to hear that message from their superiors. That's where the cultural change will come from.
It's horrible that we haven't addressed this, and it's not a simple solution. It's a continuous culture change.
Providence Public Safety Commissioner Steve Perry is responsible for the largest group of firefighters and police officers in the state.
Firefighters and police see a lot of trauma, from the elderly to little kids, and that adds up, and I've seen it in the 2 departments that I've worked with. I wish I had the answer.
Part of the challenge for police officers in particular, controversial shootings and other incidents across the country. Viral videos may lead people to distrust officers in their own communities.
When you see the bad shootings and use of force, people look down upon police officers, so we got to change that.
Adding to the problem is a culture of keeping quiet. Police officers and firefighters may fear that asking for help will derail their careers.
They'll never come forward if they have that fear.
Therapist Hallie Fleischman of Brightside Behavioral Health works with Rhode Island first responders.
I think I've seen a trend. More people are coming to help, but I think we need to talk even more about it.
She says long hours and unpredictable shifts can take a serious toll.
They still have to be a husband, a wife, a mother, a father, a sister, a brother. They still need to be there to support their own, and it's so very difficult when you carry so much around with you. There are people that do understand, and there are people that want to help.
Instead of staying silent, Ashley Wall is making a conscious effort to talk about suicide and mental health.
You know, and if we just start talking about it more and just normalizing mental illnesses more as a community and become more accepting of it, then the conversation changes and maybe we'll see less of this.
Hoping to honor her husband's memory by creating change.
Boy, our hearts really go out to Ashley and her family. So Katie, is there a push to change the mindset? These people we think of as our saviors, but really they need some saving.
I think leaders in the profession are finally starting to recognize that. And the experts that I talk with say really that's how change has to happen from the top if leaders make it okay to ask for help. So one thing that they're pushing for is more peer support programs. They do have a program at Providence PD and some other larger departments, but they want to expand that out statewide and include some of the smaller police departments and also include firefighters, because traditionally they haven't had these programs, and maybe the thinking has been that they're not exposed to as much trauma as police officers, but in fact they are, because they answer so many medical calls and emergencies. So there is a push now to think both about firefighters, police officers in larger departments and smaller departments as well.
And those numbers are staggering.
Thinking of the fact that we had 6 firefighters die this way, 1 police officer, that's 7 people in Rhode Island, which is a small state, only about 1 million people. So when you think of that and how many people in the state are in this profession, it really gives you pause. You realize how serious it is.
Absolutely, and we've just learned that BH Link has a survivors group for the spouses of these people, and we're told that it's really helping.
Absolutely, because I think, those are the folks who are going to best understand what these people are going through, whether it's a widow or a widower, and also what the job was like. Ashley Wall talked about, just all the stresses of the job that her husband was going through, and it's hard to understand that if you don't also come from that background in your family.
BH Link is designed to help Rhode Islanders dealing with behavioral health issues get immediate help for themselves or for their friends and family. Having one central location that is a 24-hour triage center providing care to people who are in need of immediate assistance is the goal of BH Link. BH Link was created in 2018 and has already served thousands of Rhode Islanders. A 24/7 hotline, formal clinical assessments, and peer specialists on site are just a few of the services offered at BH Link. Rhode Islanders dealing with mental health or substance use disorders can find resources, support information, and most importantly, hope at the BH Link Center in East Providence, and additional resources on the website. For more information, you can see their website at bhlink.org or call them at 401-414-LINK. That's 401-414-5465. When we hear the numbers associated with the opioid crisis, it's overwhelming, and we wonder, when will they stop growing? One industry hit hardest by this crisis is the building trades: electricians, roofers, contractors, men and women who are at more of a risk of being hurt on the job because they rely so heavily on their bodies to get the work done. ABC6 reporter Ellie Romano looks at what's being done to educate workers in the trades to tackle opioid use and to help them on the path to recovery.
Hidden under the hard hat is an alarming statistic.
So 1 out of every 5 overdose deaths involved a construction worker.
The Rhode Island Department of Health tracked nearly 1,000 opioid overdose deaths from 2016 to 2018. During that time, 20% of the deadly overdoses were from people who work in the construction field.
99% of them were men, and over half of them were in a younger age group, that 25 to 44 age group.
The startling statistic encompasses anyone in the construction trade or extraction field.
Electricians, roofers, people who actually do building, carpenters, masonry.
Do you think that 1 in 5 is on par with what you see?
I think that I do notice more people on opiates. I can tell, by their eyes, by the way they're acting.
Kristen Scungio has been a part of the construction trade as a painter since she was 17. But that's also when she started abusing opioids.
I started on Oxycontins. I was snorting them.
Heroin took over her life for the next 5 years.
Out of all the drugs I did, heroin definitely brought me to my bottom quickest.
Her addiction followed her everywhere, even to work on job sites.
I fell asleep on lifts, like crash into the corner of walls, like nodding out. I was just like falling asleep in closets. It was just really messed up. I was definitely becoming a safety hazard.
Tell me a little bit about what made you want to get clean.
I totaled my car into oncoming traffic. My relationships were all deteriorating. Just my whole life went downhill. It got to the point where I was like sleeping in parks. Just nothing mattered except heroin.
Scungio checked into a rehabilitation facility and quit cold turkey.
I just wanted to get my body off of this like slavery.
It took 2 years, but then she was free and ready to take her life back.
I was a little nervous going back into the trades because obviously drugs are prominent there.
But she's been able to stay sober for 7 years, and during that time has noticed a shift in the industry to try and cut back on opioid abuse.
My business agent, like, will stand up and offer like resources for people with mental health or drug addiction. I think that's huge.
Similar initiatives are now being rolled out by the organization Building Futures.
Just being able to have a conversation about your health and well-being is something that we need to practice.
Rachel Miller is training tradespeople like Scungio how to avoid injury on the job so they can avoid getting prescribed opioids in the first place.
We talk a lot about if you are prescribed opioids, because there's a lot of appropriate uses, right? Like how to be safe in that use and how to manage it and how to, again, talk openly about it.
And talking about it really works. It helps Scungio on her way to recovery.
I think the most amazing thing that came out of getting clean was healing the pain that I didn't even realize I needed to heal and being able to be content in my own body.
The Department of Health is now looking into the big question: why construction workers are dying at the highest rate from opioids.
Good, solid, evidence-based public health takes time. I didn't say a decade, but I think it's at least a couple of years before we have a good idea of the why. Until
then, Dr. Jim McDonald and the state are working to make Narcan more widely available.
We want to have the antidote out there because we know that there are people who have opioid disorder. They're going to be using illicit opioids. We need to have strategies to help rescue them so they'll be ready to enter into a time of treatment.
He also says we as a nation need to work together on destigmatizing opioid misuse.
People need our help at that point. They really need our love, our support, and they don't need our judgment. It just isn't helpful.
So returning back to the workplace, the neighborhood, the home, that's always the challenge for people in recovery. What can we do to help?
So Scungio did say she was nervous about returning, and she said when she got back she was able to stay clean because no one approached her trying to use drugs or sell her drugs. And she said that she could tell there was a difference between people who were using versus not, so she would just stay away from that crowd. So that helped being able to acknowledge where to go and where to stay away from. And then you heard from the Building Futures team, which is partnering with the state and is actually going into trades communities and trying to train people on how to avoid getting involved with opioids in the first place or at all. And if they do need to get prescribed opioids for surgery or for any reason, how to use them properly so that if you are going to be involved with these really addictive drugs, you're at least going to use them safely.
Well, it's promising that the support is there.
Yeah, and it's a new effort that the state has been working with since this study came out.
Rhode Island's construction industry is taking on the opioid crisis and substance use problem head on. 1 in 5 overdose deaths are individuals who work in the construction industry. Building Futures helps to prepare workers to meet employer needs in the construction and building trades. As part of the workforce response to the opioid crisis, they've partnered with industry organizations and their own graduates in a program called Recovery Through Opportunity. Together, they are training leaders, administrators, and workers in 3 key areas: prevention, support, and rescue, helping to sustain and protect the workforce. Workers in other industries like the fishing industry and hospitality who are also looking for ways to cope can find resources too at BH Link. BH Link is a 24/7 triage center equipped with the people and resources to get you the help you need. You can call them at 401-414-LINK. That's 401-414-LINK. 5465. Teen suicide rates are on the decline. For the second year in a row, Rhode Island had the lowest rate in the country. This according to America's Health Ranking, which monitors and compares percentages around the country. And locally, that's good news. But students in Portsmouth know firsthand that one is too many. Since losing a friend to suicide in 2018, students there have rallied to make changes, socially, even legislatively, in the hopes of making schools accountable for dealing with mental health issues. Eyewitness News reporter Walt Puteau shares with us a story about this community coming together and the friends who want to make sure a life is remembered and another life not lost.
If things were different,
we're going to break up into groups. We have 20 blankets to do.
This crowd of Portsmouth High School students cutting,
perfect,
tying,
oh, you guys are good,
creating blankets for patients at Hasbro Children's Hospital might have included the teenager who now inspires them.
I very much enjoy it.
One of Nathan Bruno's best friends says he would have been the one cracking jokes as he worked.
I just remember he's a super funny kid.
Owen Ross met Nate in 5th grade.
He would just walk around the hallways and it would just be like an inside joke. He'd scream shark, and then everyone would drop to the ground, just for no reason. It's just he just made every situation super funny.
Nate was about 4 months shy of his 16th birthday when his father noticed a difference. He remembers bringing it up at the dinner table.
I said, hey Nate, I feel like something's off. What is it? And he just said, Dad, I just feel like nowadays kids have it harder.
Right when it happened, it was horrible, but then even in the days after, it was kind of just getting worse before it got better.
And then you're going to tie the 2 blankets together.
Stephen Peterson, who helped organize the hands and hearts behind this blanket-making factory, was Bruno's boss at a local restaurant after the 15-year-old ended his life in February of 2018. His friends went to Peterson.
Really, it just started out with a couple of guys meeting and saying, this is how we feel. And then they're saying, but we want to make some change happen. We don't want this to just have happened and we move on and we think about Nathan and we cry about it. We do these sort of things. We want something positive to come. We want to make sure that the way we feel right now is not a way that anybody else ever feels again.
Peterson knocked on Bruno's front door looking for the okay to start what's blossomed.
Zip right through all of these.
Into every student initiative and Be Great for Nate.
They wanted to raise the awareness of what they would see in a friend if they were under stress.
They're hearing about it on Smith Hill.
This is not an easy process.
On this afternoon, every student initiative is getting a crash course in civics from Portsmouth Senator James Seveny, one of the sponsors of a bill that would change how schools handle mental health issues.
We've changed our strategies of how we're going to go about it.
Colin Cord is the student organization's policy director, determined to nudge the bill out of committee before he graduates next year.
And we will have a larger group go up there to try and push the process forward.
To make yourself a part of the process is it's really powerful. People pay attention to that.
Doing the same thing we did last year, but we're going to be doing it repetitively this year, working harder, get more people.
So this will go somewhere. You will get it done, and we'll help.
If passed, the law would require teachers and staff to be educated annually about the signs they should look for in a stressed student. There would also be new protocol for notifying parents. Nate's father tells us his son's case did not involve clinical depression, drugs, or alcohol, and there were no red flags pointing to suicide. But he says knowing more sooner would have been vital.
If we could have cut Nathan's stress back by 5 to 6 weeks, we could have reached him a lot sooner in that emotional support.
Just reaching out to a kid that's having a problem may, in fact, steer you clear of something that blossoms into a real tragedy.
They tell us their aim is way higher than getting a law passed. They want to make a global impact by building a model other communities can use.
I really do think that this youth movement, this generation, is going to be the one that can end suicide. But there's so much work to be done.
Be Great for Nate is already training Portsmouth students about the signs to look for and how to help classmates realize their problems are not too big, that it's okay not to be okay.
That's one of the stigmas that we bring up, things that we try to break down, boys don't cry and if you have mental illness, you're weak and all that kind of stuff. That's just what we kind of want to get out of people's heads.
Walt, I love that the kids went to an adult and said, this is how we're feeling, what can we do? But how do we change that to have them say, this is what we're seeing and hearing, what can we do?
That's exactly what Be Great for Nate is about. It's not about getting to a kid who's near that horrible decision. It's about getting to the kid long before they make it, about noticing certain signs in the hallway and certain signs in their attitude, and talking to them, and then knowing which adult to go to with this information without feeling like a tattletale, as we used to say.
And they're really pushing for it. This wants to be a big model for the state.
Multiple of the founders of this organization, they want it to be a model for the world. They want an international, multi-million-dollar sort of nonprofit. In fact, one of the students we talked to is going to college to do just that.
I hope he gets the support.
I think he hopes so too, and a lot of people hope that.
Kids Link Rhode Island is a hotline for parents and guardians to use to find help for children experiencing an emotional crisis. The toll-free hotline connects parents and caregivers to resources available in the Ocean State to determine the best places to go for emergency services and treatment options. Families who are trying to deal with behavioral issues in school, lashing out at friends or family members, or children who are dealing with excessive anxiety or sadness are all areas that the Kids Link professionals can assist with. Call them at 1-855-543-5465. And again, the free hotline is 1-855-543-5465. Finding help through a phone call, 414-LINK, 414-5465. Such a simple number, but one that could save yours or your loved one's life. It will connect you to Rhode Island's only mental health triage center, BH Link. And once connected, a path to recovery is not only created, it's supported.
Those bridges and those trees on my way home that day were very enticing. It was no longer safe to drive myself home. And I truly believe if I wasn't a mom, I might not be here.
Danielle Hebert had gone off her medication when pregnant with her second child. After his birth, she found the demands of everyday life too much to handle.
I struggled the last few years. My anxiety and depression got quite a bit worse after my second child was born in 2016. I had postpartum depression that I ignored and pushed aside and made sure I kept being the full-time working mom, also the soccer mom, and checking all those silly boxes that we hold ourselves accountable to.
When she decided she wasn't safe anymore, her word, her husband found help.
So 414-LINK is the telephone number to call. That's the best way to kind of say, here's what's going on for me, and I don't know what to do next.
Often for clients like Danielle, the first interaction with BH Link will help to carve out a plan for wellness. Jim Rysick, CEO of Horizon Healthcare Partners, says unlike emergency departments around the state, which see a host of different issues and traumas, BH Link meets the needs of only those suffering from a mental health or substance use crisis. BH Link was designed to be the antithesis of an ED from the moment you walk in the door.
It's a more dimly lit, calming environment. The way that the treatment bays are arranged with recliners instead of a gurney, makes somebody more comfortable.
When I walked in the door here, I was just overwhelmed with a sense of calm. A calm I hadn't felt in years.
Everyone who comes through the door is unique. Everyone who comes through the door is actually a puzzle that we need to figure out and help put together.
You and I scrape our knee, need to go get stitches and so forth. You go to the hospital, your coworkers say, I'm sorry. There's a sympathy to physical health injuries and seeking the help that you might need if you're sick. By talking about it, we need to make sure we have the same kind of conversation about mental health.
First Gentleman Andy Moffat has the unique opportunity to lend his voice to the campaign, It's Okay Not to Be Okay.
The last thing I'd want is for them to be ashamed of whatever struggle they have, to hide it. I think it's particularly acute for men. It's so, as a man, I just thought it'd be worth, trying to add my voice to it.
BH Link, Melissa speaking. How may I help you?
A suicide hotline, also manned 24/7, has proven to be a lifeline, fielding over 100 calls a week. And if need be, BH Link dispatches a van with a trained clinician aboard to go to the person in need and bring them into the center.
Yeah, people have emailed us and said, you literally saved our lives.
You need to live your best life. You deserve it. Everyone deserves it. You need to love to wake up to crazy kids and a messy house and a mountain of laundry. You need to be able to tackle that and love every minute.
For behavioral health care service during a crisis, take down this information and keep it nearby. bhlink.org or the hotline at 401-414-LINK. That's 401-414-5465. Thank you for joining us, but we're not done yet. Please follow us over to Rhode Island PBS to continue the conversation. It's okay not to be okay. BH Link is designed to help Rhode Islanders dealing with behavioral health issues get immediate help for themselves or for their friends and family. Having one central location that is a 24-hour triage center providing care to people who are in need of immediate assistance is the goal of BH Link. BH Link was created in 2018 and has already served thousands of Rhode Islanders. A 24/7 hotline, formal clinical assessments, and peer specialists on site are just a few of the services offered at BH Link. Rhode Islanders dealing with mental health or substance use disorders can find resources, support information, and most importantly, hope at the BH Link Center in East Providence and additional resources on the website. For more information, you can see their website at bhlink.org or call them at 401-414-LINK. That's 401-414-5465. Hello and welcome to It's Okay Not to Be Okay. I'm Margie O'Brien. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. And if you're continuing the conversation with us, thank you. The members of the Rhode Island Broadcasters Association and the state of Rhode Island have partnered together for the first time to focus their attention on what have become critical issues in our state: mental health and substance use. Joining me today is Ellie Romano from ABC6, Katie Davis from NBC 10, and Walt Buteau from Eyewitness News WPRI 12. We'd also like to thank our friends here at Rhode Island PBS for hosting us on this special. Let's get started by talking about the stories that you focused on and some of the takeaways you'd like to share with our viewers and listeners. Be Great for Nate. It has a catchy ring and a caring message. Advocates say teens need more tools in their toolboxes to meet the challenges of life. Without them, outcomes can be tragic.
It's causing violence, it's causing substance abuse issues, it's causing suicide, it's causing a lot of fractures within teenagers because they don't know what to do in those situations. We're not equipping them with the knowledge they need to be able to push through those adversities.
A rudimentary set of tools to say, hey, wait a minute. Let's take a step back. Let's talk about this differently. Let's think about it differently. Maybe we get other people involved sooner in a circumstance just to try and derail that train coming at you.
Some really powerful stories that needed to be told. And Walt, I love that the community of Portsmouth is really rallying.
Absolutely, and it was a community tragedy, and the kids, as they said, they didn't want to just have their emotions out. They didn't want it to just be tears and flowers and a funeral. They wanted and want to make a difference, and they want to create a model that could be used in Barrington and Boston and wherever, everywhere, across the world, really. And they want to make it okay to admit that you're not okay.
So they're going to head up to Smith Hill, and they're going to make sure that the legislature sees their presence.
That's my favorite part of the story, because you have these 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds who've gone through the process, and we all know it takes at least 2 years to pass a bill in Rhode Island. You get up there once, but you have to keep pushing. Some people stop pushing, the bill doesn't go anywhere. These teenagers are saying, we're changing our strategy this year. We're going up every day. We're not going up once. We're going to go up all the time. We're going to make them hear us and make them make this change.
And imagine the impact when that is coming from kids.
Right. Impacted kids who will miss Nate the rest of their life, and kids who have now made, or at least they tell us, made career choices based on what they experienced. You know, they want to go into human services. They want to start this movement, if you will, as Stephen Peterson said, to end suicide.
And imagine if the people that were in your stories had this kind of conversation, the tragedies would not have occurred.
Absolutely. I love the idea of trying to end suicide, because we talk about that all the time with other conditions, right? Like, we're going to stand up to cancer. We're going to beat it. We want to raise the survival rate. So why not the same for behavioral health?
Absolutely. And I think, again, imagine the firefighter, God bless him, that is 40, 45, the police officer who's 50, the construction worker who's 45. What if they had 30 extra years of being told, you know what, you should talk about that? I think that's huge.
And I think that what we're also learning is people live with their disease. If they are struggling with a mental health issue and they get on a plan, whether it's medication, talking to a therapist, or a combination of both, they can live with that and be very successful. And that's the message. Just as people are living with a cancer diagnosis, people are living with arthritis. It's the idea of making sure they continue on the right path.
Absolutely.
And I think it is really important to start the conversation so young, because for the construction worker I spoke to, Kristen Scungio, her addiction started at 17.
Wow.
So if she had help when she was younger, maybe she could have avoided that. And during her recovery, she realized she had underlying mental health issues that she resolved and that she found help for. And if she had that help growing up, it could have been a different path for her, but she didn't. So it's really important that it's amazing that these other young kids, the same age, 17 years old, are now changing and trying to make it better for others.
Yeah, for all of us, really.
When it comes to assessing the needs of Rhode Island communities, we're not all the same. That's why we have the Rhode Island Regional Coalitions, charged with preventing substance misuse and promoting wellness in our communities. Made up of local health professionals, the coalitions help to pinpoint a region's substance use challenges and works together with teachers, parents, and kids to develop policies and programs in that particular region. 7 regions, from Blackstone Valley to South County and from Newport to West Warwick, have been activated so every community is part of one of the coalitions. Alcohol, marijuana, opioids, and overall substance use are just some of the areas that the coalitions are currently focused on. Experts in the field of addiction, adolescent development, and prevention are working in communities to educate teens and community members about prevention efforts. Community members are also encouraged to be active participants in the regional coalitions, focusing on the dangers that kids face each day and how those risks can be reduced. According to a survey done by drugfree.org, of those teens who reported alcohol use, 62% said they had their first full alcohol drink by the age of 15, not including sipping or tasting alcohol. Now, of those teens who reported alcohol use, 1 in 4, or 25%, said they drank a full alcohol drink for the first time by the age of 12 or younger. Starting these conversations at an early age is important in every community. To get more information about the Rhode Island Regional Coalitions and to find one in your community, go to riprevention.org or follow them on Facebook and like their page at Rhode Island Regional Coalitions. Helping to pave that road to recovery is vital.
Because as we know from people in recovery, their lives do turn around, and we need to support the process.
I'll be like driving and I'm just like, wow, like what am I doing? Like I'm just like going, to meetings and like doing stuff like outside of my house and like being social and like going to these events, and like those are things I would never do, and sometimes it just like catches me off guard, like wow, like this is amazing. Like I'm not locked in my house 24/7, like with nothing to look forward to.
So Ellie, when you were talking to your subject, first of all, I love that it's a female in the construction world, which is predominantly men. How did she say she got back to work mentally? I understand the physical part.
It was definitely a journey for her. First of all, it took 2 years for her to get sober. So that was a hill she had to climb first to be able to even consider going back to work. And then when she started to feel, I'm ready to go back to work, she was nervous because there are drugs prominent in the trades field, and so she didn't want to fall back down the rabbit hole. And so going back, she had to be very mentally prepared to get back there. And one thing she said that supported her and that she was surprised to see going back is that the amount of help for mental health awareness has grown in the trades field, that people are talking about it and are trying to destigmatize the issue and say, it's okay to talk about it. Let's talk about it and get the help you need, which wasn't there 5 years ago.
Right away, you said that they're using their bodies to do their jobs. So they are in the line of getting hurt more often.
Yes.
And we've all seen how this opioid crisis has started in Rhode Island is there's too many prescription drugs out there. The opioids go into heroin, and that's how we have that problem in our state. So does she also say there's more awareness about the pitfalls of the job?
Absolutely, and because it's so physically demanding, one thing that the state is now trying to do is educate the tradespeople to say, if you do get hurt, we need to let you know how to properly use and take opioids. Because a philosophy they have in working is that they can't miss work, because if they miss work, they miss their money. And being in New England, there's a shorter time period weather-wise that they can work. So a lot of times the opioids is a band-aid to get them back to work and get them back to paid. And so they're trying to say, take the time you need. Don't let it be a band-aid. It will hurt you more in the long run if you don't heal.
And I think that, again, though, talking about that and having a fellow construction worker tell you, look, I know this guy or this girl who went through this. You don't want to depend on those drugs to get you back to work. You want to get healthy first. But again, you bring a good point up. They might not have sick time, right?
They don't, and they have a very short amount of time where they're going to have, it's a seasonal job, so they don't want to miss any work.
That's tough.
And Katie, you saw it with the firefighters and police, where they're doing a job that is very demanding, physically, mentally, and they have the persona of the people saving us, whether it's they're running into the burning building, they're pulling people out of burning cars on the highway. So how do we change our idea of saying, boy, these people saving us really need some saving themselves?
You know, I think the whole understanding of what their job is has to change. What they're doing is heroic, but we need to recognize, like any job, it takes its toll after a time. And a lot of the things they see in speaking with first responders, I realized it's not things that we might necessarily think of, and suicides are one example. One firefighter told me he's responded to dozens and dozens of suicides over the years. And that's something that we're all aware of, that people die from suicide, but it's unlikely most of us have ever actually seen it or responded to it. So when you've seen something like that dozens of times on your job, it's unlikely that it's not going to take a toll on you.
It's almost like PTSD for what you see in the military, and now we're having to address suicide in veterans and helping them. So it's almost across the board, that PTSD and what you can see.
And that macho thing comes in, even with the teen who we talked to for the Be Great for Nate story, who said it's, teaching people that it's okay to cry. It's okay for men to cry. It's okay for boys to cry. But in the military, it's got to be frowned upon to a point, in a police station, in a firehouse. Right. And I think your story made a good point about how police are under as great a scrutiny as they've ever been right now, with cell phone videos and some episodes that are crimes that are committed by police officers, but a lack of trust, which must weigh on them as well.
There's a lack of trust in the officers that I've spoken with, and also a lack of understanding from people in the public that just because we've seen something on the news or there is a viral video, that does not necessarily reflect on our officers locally here, and certainly not on people in law enforcement on the whole.
And not on, I think sometimes there are people who look at, they paint with a broad brush.
Yes.
And every police officer, every firefighter, whatever the complaint is a certain way. We've got to get away from that.
Yeah, and Commissioner Perry talked a lot about that there are fewer young kids who want to go into being a police officer or firefighter, to the point that it's even hard to recruit folks now. And he wants to turn that around so that the profession is more respected and safer for people who are actually doing first responder jobs, in that they can ask for help when that burden becomes too much.
But it's all about asking for help and changing the stigma, that if someone was having a bad day, you could say, hey, you should go see your therapist today. Just like if they twisted their ankle on the job, you should go see your doctor.
That's a huge point, because again, as we said earlier, that we don't treat mental health like a sprained ankle, and we should. We work out. You have a Fitbit. We're conscious of what we look like, but what about what we look like inside? How do we feel inside? And we don't talk about it. It's still, I think, frowned upon too much.
That's a great point. I think for police officers specifically, they fear that, you may have heard, they'll have to turn in their badge and their gun, right? If they say, I'm having dark thoughts, I'm having trouble. And so that's something that also has to be changed, so that they feel like they can talk to someone confidentially and it doesn't rise to the level of hurting your ability to move forward in your career.
The Rhode Island Department of Behavioral Health Care, Development Disabilities, and Hospitals reminds us that reoccurrence is part of the natural progression of the disease of addiction, as with other diseases. People who are new to recovery often struggle living in environments filled with triggers for substance use, and that going back to old friends or old living arrangements may not be the best thing. Recovery centers provide locations that are free of drugs and alcohol, and places where peer recovery and family support services are offered. All can be key to helping people in early recovery. Oftentimes, a recovery center is part of an individual recovery plan. BH Link provides a comprehensive program and immediate access to behavioral health care services. The community-based walk-in, drop-off facility is the first step where clinicians can connect people to immediate emergency behavioral health services and guide you to long-term care with recovery support as you or your loved one progresses. Access to treatment can be challenging, and people looking for help often don't know where to turn. BH Link can help. Call them at 401-414-LINK or 401-414-5465, or visit their website, bhlink.org, for more information.
Sharing personal stories, sharing the pain, it helps.
Even as she's dealing with the sudden death of her husband, Ashley Wall tries to connect with others in pain.
Oh, it's heartbreaking. My heart shatters every time I hear about it, and I try to make an effort to reach out to those families as soon as I can, whether my message gets through or not.
The fact of the matter is, every single day they're experiencing trauma. This year alone, to date, there have been 6 suicides by firefighters.
We forget that they're human beings as well. There's a stigma that you're weak and that you choose to do what you're doing when it's really a disease.
Are we finding that oftentimes people say, you can't help me because you haven't been there? They need someone, a peer, who says, I've been in it, I've come out of it, this is how you can do it too.
I think absolutely. That's such an important point, both for first responders, for people in the construction trades as well, because you really don't know, right? I've never worked as a firefighter or police officer. You know, I can't say from a first person perspective what it's like. And so that's one reason that they're trying to expand peer support within Rhode Island. Providence PD has that now, but that's a very large police department versus like Tiverton or Little Compton that are very small departments. So they want to make it statewide. That way you can talk to somebody who's in your same field, but isn't necessarily someone who sits next to you in the office.
Sure. And a lot of times, people that are battling drugs need to be told from someone that is in recovery, here's how to climb that hill.
Exactly. That's how it was for Kristen Scungio. When she was in her 12 steps, she had a sponsor, and that's who she goes back to every time she's struggling or she needs to speak. That's the person who's been through a similar situation, understands where she's at in her recovery, and can offer advice or guidance.
And hope, right? Because
Exactly.
I made it out, maybe you can make it out.
And I asked her, Kristen Scungio, if she is ready to be a sponsor, and she said not yet, but I'd like to be, so she can get there
the
too.
The beauty of BH Link, which we're trying to educate people about, is those people are on site. So if you go into the location, you have a peer counselor who says right away, I've been there. You have a clinician who can help you with the path. And also for EMTs who are bringing some of these clients in, there's a room, sort of just a decompression room, recliners, a TV on the wall. They can talk it out, which sounds like is really necessary right now, to sort of have that cathartic conversation. Here's what I saw today. I need to get rid of that memory.
Absolutely. We interviewed a retired firefighter who now is doing a blog about firefighting. And he talked about a post he had done admitting that he had thought about committing suicide, and that's a thought that he had had on the job and since retiring. And he talked about that, and it just went viral. So many other first responders said, thank you for saying that this is a real thing that we think about.
We think of firefighters as fighting fires, but the high percentage of their runs are
medical
accidents, medically
EMT.
related,
Yeah.
and they see things that we think we've seen, but we've seen them in movies.
Right.
They're seeing it in person.
Right, and with the opioid crisis, they're seeing more and more kids, adults who have OD'd, and they're bringing them back. And that has to be scarring.
And the kids might remind, I know when I've done stories on children, I always think of my own kids.
Absolutely.
And so you think that firefighter is not only treating that person, somewhere in his mind afterwards is very well thinking, that's the kid's the age of my kid.
Right, it really hits home.
Those first responders and EMTs, firefighters often do repeat calls to the same houses that are having the same problems. So that's going to wear on them too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Peer recovery and family support services are vital to helping the person in recovery achieve success and stay focused on a positive outcome, no matter what their age. Having family and friends who are there to support you and have a better understanding of how to help is essential. The Rhode Island Family Task Force was established to connect families who have experienced opioid and substance use disorders in their own families. They are here to support and guide you and your family, as well as work to end the stigma of addiction. For more information on how to get the family support you may need, the Rhode Island Hope and Recovery Family Support Line is available at 401-467-6855 or call BH Link at 401-414-LINK. That is 401-414-5465. Or check out their website at bhlink.org. Everything you need is in one place for individuals 18 years and older at BH-Link. Leaders across our state, even in authority in this field, say these kind of challenges can hit home.
My sister was found by her son, Mother's Day weekend, 2009, and my sister had died because she'd taken her life. And it is something that we continue to work through as a family, but one that we support each other with and one that we don't hide from.
My worst nightmare came to fruition. My wife found my son face down, overdosing on heroin. I can say I can lead a nation. I really do believe that. Yet, I couldn't help my son navigate his way out of an addiction. That's my cross to bear. I had a great tour, great career in the military. I'm having a great time now as a director, leading veterans and families. Yet, I could not help my son to combat addiction. That's how powerful that drug is and continues to be.
We always look at the veterans as our heroes, but we're seeing that a lot of them are coming back home, trying to assimilate back into real life, and they're really struggling. It's the same kind of idea as the first responders.
I think so, because of course we look at them as heroes, as we should, but when they're interacting with you, they're there to be strong when you are going through something incredibly traumatic, right? And that's hard to always be the strong one, whether it's a man or a woman, a soldier or a first responder. It takes a toll to constantly be the strong one.
And I think the veterans have been on this. They've seen it. Sadly, history tells us that the veterans coming back from the Vietnam War were never given this welcome home, and they suffered. So I think the idea was, let's try to change all the practices, so when someone is leaving service, they have that checkout of, here's how you get your job, here's how you find a mortgage, here's how you get a good therapist.
But underlying that is that I think it was a few years ago that the number of veteran and soldier suicides surpassed the number of soldiers killed in action in the newer wars. And the Army has done some things to stop that, but it does go back to, I can't be weak. We did a story on a Navy SEAL who killed himself on Veterans Day. And he, he could not express that his issues. His mom was in the military. His dad had been in the military. He couldn't even tell them. And he wanted to talk to other soldiers. And I think it's sort of like the firefighters and the construction workers. They want to talk to somebody who saw something that, as bad as what firefighters have seen, is probably far worse on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
And there's an added pressure for veterans when they come back, because even though there are resources to help them get back into society and get a job, they feel like they've got to jump right back in and have the same life in a normal life, when really behind closed doors, for many of them, they're dealing with other issues. And that's why it's important for them to go and get that extra mental health.
And there's an opioid piece to that too.
Yes.
A PTSD piece,
yes.
All of that.
It's been interesting to see sort of mainstream television start tackling these issues, which again I think starts the conversation. But I know in our state, the Veterans Affairs Department is really trying to make it, again, as easy as possible to get help, and sometimes that's the important part. So veterans have a 1-800 number. They have one place that they can go to, a central website where there's information. And it's under the big umbrella of trying to get mental health issues solved and help for everyone in the state. So again, it's the conversation piece and it's the resources available. And it seems like the state is moving forward with that.
I think the easier that you make it for folks to reach out, the more people that are going to be willing to do so. If you first have to call your primary care doctor, set up an appointment with him or her, then they refer you to someone, you have to set up an appointment there. You're not sure if your insurance will cover it. It's so many barriers. So the easier we can make it to reach out and say, yeah, I would like to talk to someone, make it happen as quickly as possible, the better.
And the idea behind BH Link is you can walk right in the door and get help. You can call them. They will send a van to get you with a clinician aboard, because their idea is get the treatment to the person as soon as possible. Insurance is accepted, of course. You may even be eligible for insurance that you don't know. They can help you work through that. And if you don't have insurance, you still get the care.
That's vital. Very vital.
It's making it easy to get the help. Our brave men and women who protect us through their service to our country are truly heroes. But for many of those who serve, they may need additional support when they return home. Through the state's Office of Veteran Services, the VA Medical Center, and other community partners, there is help available. But for some, the need for help can come at any moment and at any time of day. The same goes for our heroes at home, our first responders, police, fire, and EMTs who are on the front line when a local call comes in. They too may need our help and support, and when they do, BH Link is the place to turn. As you've heard throughout this program, BH Link is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, offering comprehensive behavioral health triage and call center for Rhode Islanders 18 years and older. BH Link can provide you or your friends and loved ones with the care and resources needed to get through. For more information, go to their website at bhlink.org or call them at 401-414-LINK. That's 401-414-5465. Thanks so much for joining us. We hope this special presentation has been informative and helpful. We also hope you understand it's okay not to be okay. Throughout the upcoming year, we'll continue the conversation on our social media platforms. For the Rhode Island Broadcasters Association and the state of Rhode Island, I'm Margie O'Brien. Thank you. Rhode Islanders dealing with mental health or substance use disorders can find resources, support information, and most importantly, hope at the BH Link Center in East Providence and additional resources on the website. For more information, you can see their website at bhlink.org or call them at 401-414-LINK. That's 401-414-5465.